To close out this 1-minute introduction, I thought I'd share an excerpt from an email that Sally sent to me this past Tuesday evening. And I quote, "I have been privileged to meet, work with, and to love an amazing variety of people. I have given everything that I could to Pacem, and Pacem and all of its members have blessed me back a millionfold. I am looking forward to the annual dinner on Thursday with unrestrained and profligate love. So please join me in welcoming our unrestrained and profligately loving leader, Sally."
We're going to have a warm-up act. Charlie Zoeller.
I'm not going to use the stand. This will be brief. I too was reminded to keep it brief. Sally's already introduced me. Some of you know me, most of you do not, I suspect. I'm a longtime member of Pacem and Terris, distant for the last many years. So what am I doing here? Actually, same as you. I'm here to honor Sally. To be clear, as soon as I learned that this was going to be the celebration to honor Sally's service to Pacem and Terris and the community, I had decided to come. No question about it. But I assure you that I did not invite myself to speak. Sally did. Sally's idea, I suspect, was to add a little bit additional history to and nuance to the evening. So that's what I'm going to try to do in the remaining minutes that I have. For those who do not know the history of Pacem and Terris prior to Sally, I arrived here in 1971. That was 4 years after the founding of Pacem and Terris as an interreligious community group, council, clergy and lay people concerned about the escalating war in Vietnam. They held conferences, lectures, and began offering draft counseling for several years. By 1971, they had already had 2 or 3, I think there were 3 part-time staff people. But then they wanted to do more and grow more. So they made an arrangement through one of the founders, Albie Nelson, to work with the American Friends Service Committee in the region to jointly hire staff, jointly as American Friends Service Committee staff, and to be supervised by the Pacem and Terris board. But from the beginning, most of the work from then through now is done by whom? No. Everybody in the room. We're just here to, staff people are here to kind of hold things together. The volunteers, the financial support, the committees, the boards, that's what makes Pacem and Terris the success that it has been, with the assistance of staff, without which, as you know, in the last 27 years, Pacem and Terris could not have been as successful as it has been without Sally. Back to Pacem and Terris. Growth in the 1970s through 1985 when I left. Briefly, we took in and involved people as we could in as many of the major international, global peace and justice issues of the day. Many of them linking up with national campaigns, either through the American Friends Service Committee, through the religious denominations, whatever the case may be. Some of you might remember being involved in serving Roman rice and beans on Rodney Square when we were focusing on world hunger and we're using Diet for a Small Planet. We helped to start lobbying on behalf of Bread for the World. We had the B-1 bomber campaign, the nuclear freeze campaign. We were involved in supporting human rights and opposing human rights abuses in Central America during the various civil wars there during the 80s. We worked with the anti-apartheid movement. We helped to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the March on Washington in 1963 through the Rainbow Coalition and the Coalition of Conscience. Throughout the years, we organized, this is going to sound familiar, leafleting, peace vigils, hosting pilgrims who traveled up and down the East Coast from Washington to New York and back for various causes. We reached out across, well, we took busloads of people to Washington and to New York for various demonstrations. We reached out not only to the local religious community that originally founded Pacem Terris, but in the late 1970s, there were hostages in Iran. We reached out at that point, I think that was the first time, we reached out to the Muslim community and involved them in the various peace vigils at that point. We took our messages and programs to churches, to synagogues, to schools, colleges, universities. Delmarva Peacework newsletter was begun in the 1970s. We served as a resource to the various religious denominations and to the various secular peace and justice groups throughout the Delmarva Peninsula. We helped to form coalitions around projects and causes. And of course, in 1976, we helped to launch the Ulster Project, the longest running program of its kind in the country, continuous. It was a privilege to have been here at that time, some of the best years of my life. I was married here, our 2 children were born here. Our oldest son, Jacob, 40 years old this Sunday. He was called a communist here for the first time when he was leafleting with us, with Dr. Jim Reamer, who was playing Santa Claus. We were leafleting with candy canes on Market Street one Christmas, telling people that's all Santa Claus had to give out because the B-1 bomber was costing too much. Now, why has Pacem Terris thrived so successfully for so long? 3 reasons. First, the dedication of so many. Look around this room. That's how it's been possible. Secondly, because Pacem Terris' commitment to its core mission has continued. Stretched a little bit, Pacem Terris, thankfully, has become a lot more diverse since I was here, which is a tremendous growth for Pacem Terris and for the community and for its causes. Commitment to its mission, but also ability to adapt and to change. Unfortunately, we have not been put out of business. The need for peace and justice, community organizing, community education, advocacy still goes on. Thirdly, Pacem Terris has thrived over the years because of Sally.
And Charlie, too.
I'm talking about since I left. Thank you. How fortunate. I'm going. Come here.
Okay.
You can push me off here. I've got to go slow. All right. How fortunate we have been to have had Sally to guide, encourage, empower, and inspire us in the work of Pacem Terris over this past 27 years. Her compassion, gentleness of spirit, personal touch were gifts she gave us without measure. I want to thank Sally for her personal kindness to me over the years since I left, through her many handwritten notes and updates, especially including me in the 30th UPD celebration in Northern Ireland a few years ago. So Sally, here's to you. Your contributions will live on through all of us and through Pacem Terris for years and years to come.